Okay, last law we're going to learn for solving sides and angles in an oblique triangle. So sometimes you're not given that full pair of information so that you can use sine law, and in that case we use cosine law. And here is your formula, the general formula for cosine law. When you're trying to find a side, c, okay, this is the formula you're going to use. C squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cos c. It seems like a lot, but the a squared plus b squared, first of all, it should remind you of Pythagorean theorem. It's just the other two sides squared. Then you're subtracting double the other two sides times cos of the opposite side that you're trying to find, the angle opposite to the side that you're trying to find. Okay, so over here, in this example, okay, we're trying to find side B, which is opposite angle B. Okay, so instead of cos C, we're going to be using cos B. Okay, and then little a is 5, little c is 4. Okay, this formula you're going to use when you have two sides, okay, and the contained angle. And I like to call this, so two sides and the contained angle, I like to call this the duck formation, okay, because it forms like the beak of a duck. So when you see that and you don't have anything else, you have to use cosine law. So here's what our cosine law is going to look when we're trying to solve for b instead of the c that our equation is given it. So b squared, the side I'm looking for squared, is equal to the other two sides. So a squared plus c squared minus double the other two sides, and then times cos of that opposite angle, b. Okay, so the outside letters have to match. The c here with the angle here, the b here with the angle b here. Okay, and now you're just plugging everything in. So b squared equals 5 squared plus 4 squared minus 2 times 5 times 4 times cos 35. Now personally, I like to plug this all in my calculator at once, and then I take the square root of both sides because I want to solve for b. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, if you want to take it one by one, that's fine. Do what you have to do on your calculator, but if you can plug this all in at once, it makes life a lot easier. So I'm going to do 5 squared plus 4 squared minus 2 times 5 times 4 times cos 35. And I get 8.2339, and it continues. I'm going to write at least 4, but when I take the square root of both sides, because I want to solve for b, not b squared, okay, I'm going to keep all of the decimals in my calculator. Like, I'm just going to type in square root, answer button, equals, and I get approximately 2.9. Okay, if you went a longer way, like you did 5 squared in your calculator, you did 4 squared, and then you did the rest step by step, that's fine. Just make sure you get the answer I got. Okay, and if you're having trouble with your calculator, please make sure you ask me or a friend to help you out tomorrow in class. Okay, so cosine law to solve for a side should be super quick, and it's a pretty straightforward, easy formula to use, hopefully. Okay, now if we want to try to solve for an angle, so we need to get this angle right here, we need to rearrange our formula to isolate for cos c, because the minute you isolate for cos c, you're just going to take the cos inverse of the other side, and then you have your angle. So we're going to rearrange our formula. The first thing we're going to do is add 2ab cos c to both sides. Okay, I want to bring this over here because I want the coefficient of cos c to be positive, and while I do that, I'm going to subtract c squared from both sides, so to bring that over. Okay, so I'm just doing a little swap. I want cos c to be on the positive side. So 2ab cos c is equal to a squared plus b squared minus c squared. And now I need to isolate for cos c, which means I need to divide out that 2ab from both sides. So here's our second formula for the cosine law. Cos c is equal to the other two sides added together and squared minus that opposite side squared all over double the other two sides. So that is another one we want. And these formulas will be given to you on the formula sheet on your test, on the exam, everything really. Okay, so let's try to take this and put it into action in our next example. So we're looking for angle A. Okay, so little a is here, little b is here, little c is here. So my formula has to start with cos A. Okay, now my two sides that are squared and added, those are going to be the other sides. So B and C squared. And then I'm going to subtract my opposite side squared all over 2BC. Okay, so everything's kind of matching. We're just swapping a few things. And now we can plug in what we have. Cos A equals 8 squared plus 6 squared minus 5 squared all over 2 times 8 times 6. Okay, just notice, going back to the formula, that the first two letters that you're adding match the 2AB on the bottom. Okay, they have to match, and then the cos C, like the angle here, matches the side that's being subtracted. Okay, so if you remember that, you really don't even have to look at the formula sheet, but obviously it's going to be there for you. Okay, now I like to simplify that fraction, so I put a squared plus 6 squared minus 5 squared. I press it into my calculator, I get 75, and then I take that answer and I divide it by, and then in brackets I put 2 times 8 times 6, so that 75 is divided by everything. Of course you can do this in multiple steps, but I get 0.78125. So if you wanted to, a side step here could have been cos A equals 75 for the top, and then 2 times 8 times 6 is 96. And then you can take the cos inverse of that if you'd like, or you could turn that to a decimal and then take the cos inverse. It's totally up to you. You're going to get the same answer either way. So cos inverse of that decimal gives me approximately 39 degrees. And those are the only two versions of cosine law, one for solving for a side, one for solving for an angle. Now, what I forgot to mention is, you want to use the second version of the cosine law if you have all three sides and no angles. So pretty much the only two times you're going to use cosine law is if you have that duck, so two sides in the contained angle and nothing else, or if you have all three sides and no angles. Okay, so I'm going to do number 9 and 10 with you just to practice the formula one more time, and then I'm going to have you guys do 11 and 12 on your own. So in number 9, we have that duck example. So two sides, the 8 and the 9, and then contained angle, which is 25 degrees. And we're looking for y, which means our formula is going to be y squared equals the other two sides, so x squared plus z squared minus 2 times those two sides cos y. Okay, and we're going to plug everything in. So across from angle x is side x, across from angle z is side z. And let's go ahead and plug everything in. So x squared, that's going to be 9 squared, z squared, that's 8 squared, minus 2 times the 9 times the 8, and then cos of that opposite angle, which is 25. Okay, can plug this into your calculator. So 9 squared plus 8 squared minus 2 times 9 times 8 times cos 25. And I got 14.4917. And then we can square root both sides. And again, just keep all of those decimals in your calculator when you square root, if it has that capability. And I get approximately 3.8 for side y. Okay, so it's a really quick formula. Okay, and again, if you want to do in multiple steps, if that helps you, or if your calculator doesn't have the ability to plug it all in at once, then by all means do that. Just make sure you got the same answer as me, so verify that before you move on. Okay, so number 10, we're looking for angle P. Okay, so here's side P, here's side M, and here's side N. So if I'm looking for angle P, I'm going to start with cos P equals the other two sides, so m squared plus n squared, minus the opposite side of my angle, so that's p squared, all over double the first two. And now we just plug in. So 5 squared plus 8 squared minus 7 squared, all over 2 times 5 times 8 Okay, so here I'm going to put it into my calculator. 5 squared plus 8 squared minus 7 squared, which is 40, divided by 2 times 5 times 8, and I get 0.5. So now to find angle P, I'm going to take the cos inverse of 0.5, and I get an exact answer of 60 degrees. So that's why I put the regular equal signs. Okay, so I want you to try 11 on your own. You're solving for side F. So write out the general formula you're going to use based on triangle DEF, plug everything in, and solve for F. Then come back to the video and check your answer. Okay, so because we were looking for F, the formula was F squared equals D squared plus E squared minus 2DE cos F. So again, the side we're looking for and the angle match, and then the other sides are in the middle. Okay, you should have had 43 when you simplified the right side, and when you square rooted that, 6.6. So if your formula looked right but your answer was wrong, it must have been a calculator issue. So now try 12 to solve for angle H. Write that general formula, then check back with me. Okay, so we were looking for angle H, so I started with cos H equals the other two sides, so g squared plus I squared minus h squared over 2gi. Plugged everything in, and when I simplified my fraction, I got 0.125. And then I took my cos inverse because that's what we do whenever we try to solve for an angle, and I got approximately 83 degrees. Okay, so those are the two variations of cosine law. The formulas will be given to you in terms of A, B, C, so you have to know how to actually set it up in terms of your triangle. That's why I like remembering the formula on my own instead of actually memorizing it, just by like thinking about the tricks of it. But that's it for cosine law, and that's really it for all of the different formulas and strategies to solve for missing sides and angles in right triangles and in oblique triangles.